Good morning. Namaste to each of you. Thank you for joining me this morning to honor your mind and your body and your spirit. Let's just take a moment to get nice and comfortable, either on a cushion or a blanket, somewhere where your spine and back of your neck can sit nice and tall and long, opening up your chest and opening up your diaphragm and opening up your heart. Gently close your eyes and soften your thoughts. Soften your eyes. Soften your shoulders. And soften your heart. Observe your breath as it is, soft and gentle. Breathing life with each inhale and relaxation with each exhale. Feel the grace of being present, returning to that awareness again and again. You may open your eyes. For this morning's intention, you may think of a positive word or a phrase to have with you on your mat and perhaps take with you throughout the day. This morning's intention I'd like to talk about is continuing our celebration this month of the National Yoga Awareness Month. This morning, we're going to explore Ashtanga Yoga. And Ashtanga Yoga is a style of yoga under the Hatha school. There's about 6 schools. And Ashta refers to the number 8 in Sanskrit. And while Anga means limb. So it's Ashtanga Yoga is about the 8 limbs of yoga, as prescribed in the sutras by Patanjali. The Ashtanga style of yoga, we'll get to, has certain key principles and yoga practices, which include the Ujjayi breath, which we're familiar with, that audible soundtrack. It includes dristis, which we're familiar with, that focal point. It includes vinyasa, and in this context, vinyasa meaning the synchronization of your pose to your breath. It includes bandhas, B-A-N-D-H-A, which I don't talk about, but we do them pretty much every week. It's body locks. And Ashtanga Yoga, lastly, includes a daily practice. It's recommended that you do Ashtanga Yoga 6 times a week. And for reasons I don't know, moon days are days of rest. So full moon and the full moon, and when it's new moon, I was going to say it's not empty moon, it's new moon. So those are days of rest. So Ashtanga Yoga also requires practice, patience, persistence, and most of all, discipline. So this sounds like what we do pretty much every week. Maybe the 6 days a week, some of you do, others not. But this is where Ashtanga Yoga, the style of it, differs. Ashtanga Yoga has a set series of poses. There are 6 levels. If you look, and there are many charts out there, if you look at a chart for Ashtanga Yoga, you'll see 6 levels of poses. The first level being the sun salutation A, second level sun salutation B, third level standing poses, fourth level, fifth level, and sixth level. Kind of get into sitting and more advanced poses. But there's set poses. If you do the Ashtanga Yoga the way it's intended, it'll take you about 90 minutes. Actually, if you are familiar with it and know what you're doing, it would take longer if you're still learning what poses and sequence they come in. And those classes, you can step into an Ashtanga class anywhere in the world, and it'll be the same. So that's what's different about this particular style of yoga. There are a primary series, which we're going to use poses from that. And I'm just going to pick out some. We're going to do the first 2 levels series, which is the sun salutation 1A and sun salutation B. But I'm going to pick out poses from the other ones. And the primary series is a chart on itself that people do for years and years and years and years, and maybe never even go to the advanced chart. The advanced chart has same series, but say instead of doing legs up the wall, which we'll do, you're doing a headstand or handstand. That's the advanced version of it. So the poses, like I said, would take you about 90 minutes. So where does the other 7 limbs come into play? It's intended that this repetition of these poses and repeating them every time you do this particular style of yoga creates this moving meditation. And that's what the 8 limbs of yoga has been all about. It's moving toward the goal of meditation and bliss, the samadhis, the bliss. So it's creating that feeling of incorporating those 8 limbs, and you'll do the breathing techniques, the ujjayis, the one that's featured there, concentration, drishti, other limbs of the 8 limbs of yoga. You're incorporating those into one holistic system that is like a moving meditation. So typically it starts off with a mantra, and and it starts off and ends with a mantra. So I'm going to do just Om today. And then we're going to go into in your sitting pose. We're just going to take 10 deep ujjayi breaths. So I'm going to start with Om. So inhale. And you're free to join me. Inhale. Oh. 10 deep breaths. Alrighty. We're going to start our practice today standing. So you can go right into the sun salutation. So get yourself, and you may want to, I'm going to be using blocks today for some of the poses because they're poses that I don't typically use. So I'm just going to have them as support for those particular poses. So I mentioned the baddhas, the blocks, body locks, not blocks, body locks. And there are three that are typically used in the Ashtanga Yoga style. One is tucking your chin toward your chest. The other is tucking your navel toward your spine. And the third is bringing your thighs together so that they elevate or support your pelvis or pelvic area. So those are the bandhas that we typically use and are used a lot in Ashtanga Yoga. So the other thing that's unique to Ashtanga Yoga is that, well, it is and it isn't. When you come back, we often come back to mountain pose as a way to kind of balance ourselves, to equalize ourselves before we go on to another sequence. We did that with the Iyengar last week, and Ashtanga also has that built in. And when you come back to the mountain pose in Ashtanga Yoga, there is a word that is used, and it's called samastetihi. And I gotta see if I have that. Yeah, it means steady balance. Samastetihi. So I'll be saying that hopefully throughout this when we come back to mountain pose. So let's start with our sun salutation A. And whether it's the primary version of Ashtanga or the advanced version, sun salutation A is what we start with. But we're going to do it 3 times. They typically do it 5 times. So, and then we're going to go right into sun salutation B, which is usually done 3 times, and we're going to do it twice. And just in that is the warm up, and I'm pretty much done by the end of the second series, but we'll persevere as what is told. We have to be persistent, so we'll move along. So sun salutation A. Inhale, sweeping our hands up overhead. Big inhale and exhale, bringing our hands down to the mat, bringing them half forward fold, hands to our shins. Forward fold, bringing our hands to the mat, stepping both feet back into plank pose. Plank pose, we're all familiar with it. Wrists are right under your shoulders, heels pushing back, navel's tucked to the spine, very important here so you don't get that saggy stomach, that's the bandha. So we're gonna lower either knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga down. And then you can push up gently into cobra. Tuck your toes under, come into downward dog, and take 5 deep breaths here. Kind of a resting point as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you bring your feet up to your hands, either walk, hop, or step up to your hands. Bring your hands to your shins, half forward fold, flattening out your back. And then bring your hands down for forward fold. And then bring them back up. Samastetihi. Okay, so that's 1. And then number 2, hands go up, And then down, forward fold. Inhale, half forward fold. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, stepping back to plank. Exhale, chaturanga, chest chin. Inhale, up to cobra. Exhale, downward dog. 5 deep breaths. Five. And then step up to forward fold. Hands to the shins, half forward fold. And then hands down, forward fold. Sweeping our hands all the way up, inhaling. And then down. Samasteshiti. And then third one, inhale, arms go up. Exhale, hands come down, forward fold. Inhale, half forward fold. Exhale, forward fold. Stepping our feet back to plank. Chaturanga or knees, chest, chin, down to the mat. Then push up for cobra. Tuck your toes under, come into downward dog. 5 deep breaths. 4, 5, and step up, forward fold, half forward fold, forward fold, and sweeping our hands all the way up, palms come together, palms come to heart center, Samashitihi. So that's 3. So we're moving on to our second series, which is Sun Salutation B. A lot of the same poses with a few additional ones thrown in. So arms go up. And then going into chair pose. So, and be sure to have your navel tucked to your spine to support your lower back, bringing your hips down toward your ankles. Chair pose. And then drop your hands down, forward fold. Half forward fold. And then bring your hands back down to the mat, forward fold. Step your feet back to plank. Knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga down. Inhale to cobra. Tuck your toes under, come up for downward dog. 5 deep breaths. 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to bring our right foot up between our hands, coming into a lunge position. Pivot our back foot down and then sweep our hands up into warrior 1. And then bring our hands back down. Step our foot back to plank. We're going to lower to the mat, chaturanga, knees, chest, chin. Pushing up for cobra. Tucking our toes under, come up to downward dog. 5 deep breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Step our left foot up between our hands, coming into runner's lunge. Pivot the back foot down, sweeping our hands up, come up into warrior 1. And then come back down. Bring our left foot back to meet our right, coming back into plank. Knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga. And up to cobra. Tuck our toes under, come into downward dog. 5 deep breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then step all the way up. Forward fold. Hands to shins, half forward fold, flat back. Exhale, hands to mat. Forward fold, and then sweep our hands all the way up. Oops, sorry. Back down, forward fold. Bend the knees. Coming into chair. Sure your navel's tucked to your spine. Lift your arms to chair pose. And then come back up to standing. Sorry about that. And then hands come to heart center. Samasthiti. And we'll do that one more time. Arms go up. Inhale, exhaling into chair pose. Tucking your navel to your spine. Bringing your hands down to the mat. Inhale, half forward fold. Exhale, forward fold. Bring your hands to your mat. Step your feet back to plank. And then lower down to the mat, knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga. Inhale up to cobra. Tuck your toes under for downward dog. 5 deep breaths here. And then we're going to bring our right foot up in between our hands to runner's lunge. Knees right over our ankle. We'll pivot our back foot down, pushing into our front foot, lifting up for warrior 1. And then bringing our hands back down. Bringing our right foot back into plank. And then lowering down, knees, chest, chin. Pushing up to cobra. Tucking our toes under for downward dog. And 5 deep breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And bringing our left foot up between our hands into runner's lunge. Pivoting the back foot down. Pushing into the front foot, coming up to warrior 1. And then coming back down. Bringing your hands to the mat. Sending your left foot back to meet your right foot. Coming into plank. Knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga down to the mat. And gently push up to cobra. Tuck your toes under, coming up to downward dog. 5 deep breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And step. Walk up or step up to your hands to forward fold. Half forward fold, nice flat back. Forward fold, bringing the hands to the mat. Bending your knees down. Tucking your navel to your spine. Lifting your hands up, coming into chair. And then up to mountain. Hands come together. Hands come to heart center. Samashitihi. And then we have the series 2, the second tier of exercises. Okay, I'm done. Now, moving on. I was laughing to myself because my chaturanga's down to the mat. I was basically falling to the mat instead of lowering. Oh well. So next series, third tier of this chart is about standing poses. So the first one is a forward fold and you're holding your toes. So gently just forward fold. And, you know, I'm a big advocate of bending your knees when you forward fold to support your lower back. So do what is good and comfortable for you. So just kind of hang there, let gravity take over, holding your big toes. Take 5 deep breaths. And then the next pose, you could stay here if you like, but the next pose is you're lifting up your toes, the balls of your feet, and you're sliding your hand underneath so that your big toe reaches your wrist on your hand. So you do that on both feet. Again, I have my knees bent to support my lower back. So do that, keeping the weight on the toes so they don't fall over. Five deep breaths. And then release and make your way up. Inhale, arms overhead, palms come together, hands come to heart center, Samashitihi. Next series, we're going to do triangle pose. And the second part of this is where I'm going to need my blocks. So I'm going to just kind of get them ready. Actually, having them for triangle pose works for me too. So triangle pose, we have our toes. Actually, our toes are left foot pointed directly to the short end of the mat. Back toes is at a 45-degree angle, kind of like we were going to go into Warrior Two. But our leg is straight. Chest is open to the long side of the mat. Arms come up. And then we kind of reach like we're in Warrior Two, but reaching forward and then coming down to our leg or to a block or to the floor for triangle pose. And if you can, send your gaze up to your right hand. And then lift up. And we'll do that on the other side. So pivot your feet so your right toes are pointing toward the short edge of the mat. Left toes are at a 45-degree angle. Your chest is open to the long side. We're going to sweep our arms up like Warrior Two-ish. And then we're going to reach our right hand forward, bringing it down to our leg, sliding it down to the floor or to the block, sending our gaze up to our left hand. And then coming up. And then the next one is the one we don't do often. So if you have a block, that might help. Go back to the pose that we were in for triangle pose. And typically we reach the left hand forward and drop it down. This is a twist. So we're gonna bring our right hand forward. So our left toe is pointing to the short edge of the mat. Our right arm is pointing to the same direction, short edge of the mat. And then we're gonna bring that right hand down to our leg, to the mat, to a block, sending the left hand up to the sky. And hopefully you can get your gaze up to your left hand. And then come back up. Whoop. And we'll do that on the other side. So we're pivot our feet, our right toes to the right, to the short edge of the mat. Coming back into that triangle pose. Only return our arms so that our left hand is pointing in the same direction as our right toe. And then we're going to bring that down to your leg, to the mat, to a block, sending your right arm up to the sky. And then come back up. And then we'll come back to mountain pose. Big inhale up. Palms come together. Hands come to heart center. Samastetihi. 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 There we go. Samastetihi. Alrighty. Next will be, go back to our wide-legged stance, and as if we were going into warrior two. So again, our left toes pointing to the short edge of the mat, right toes at a 45-degree angle. We're going to go into that lunge that we do for warrior two, and we're going to have it be the side angle. So you have your arm on your thigh, left forearm on your left thigh, or have your left hand down to the mat. Right hand goes up to the sky, or all the way to the front. And then come back up. And we'll do that again on the other side. So we're coming into that lunge that we do for warrior two. Bring our right forearm to our right thigh, or right hand down to the mat, sending our left hand up to the sky or to the front of the mat. And then coming back up. We're gonna do same setup as we did before, getting into that lunge position. And instead of our left arm either going on our thigh or down to the mat, we're gonna bring our right arm over, just like what we did. And we're gonna hook our right elbow into the outer edge of our left knee. So you can bring your hands into Anjali Mudra. And then come back up. And we'll do that on the other side. And coming into that side angle extension, warrior two lunge. And instead of our right arm going down, we're gonna bring our left arm forward, hooking the left elbow and the outer edge of the right knee. I like to bring my palms together into Anjali Mudra. And then come back up. And then come back to mountain pose. Big inhale up. Hands come together. Hands come to heart center. Samastetihi. Samastetihi. Okay, then another wide-legged stance. Get out. So this one, your toes are pointing either to the long edge of the mat or having your heels just a little bit out so you're slightly pigeon-toed. So we're gonna come into that wide-legged stance. Typically, your ankles and your wrists are kind of in line. That's how wide your stance could be. Then we're going to do the forward fold. And then bring our hands down to the mat and drop our head down toward the mat. And bring our hands to our waist. And then we're going to interlace our hands behind our back. So right where around where your hips are. Interlace your fingers. And then send your hands up toward the sky. And this is the yoga lock. And then release your lock and bring your hands down to your toes and grab hold of your big toes. And then bring your hands to your hips. And if you'd like to bend your knees as you bring your torso up, back upright. And we're going to come back to mountain pose here. Inhale. Hands come together. Hands come to heart center. Namaste Tihi. And our last standing pose is going to be a toe hold. So I'll show you what that is, but if you'd like to substitute tree pose for that, that's fine. It's basically a balancing pose. So the toe hold, start off same way as your tree. You're gonna reach down, grab your big toe, send it out front, and then send it over to the side. So I can do that somewhat with my short arms. And then we'll do that on the other side. So lifting up, and again, you're welcome to do the tree pose, your version of it. This will be grabbing your big toe, sending it out to the side. And release. Big inhale up, hands come together. I love this part. Hands come to heart center. Namaste. Alrighty, let's go to seated poses. So this is on the fourth level, I think, fourth or fifth level of the chart. And again, I'm just kind of picking out a few of these poses for us to do. Some that we're familiar with, some that were variations of what we usually do. So staff pose, we're seated. If you want to push down to lift up your hips and then come back down, having your legs active, your feet flexed, back nice and straight and tall. And then we're going to do forward fold. So you can either, if you're comfortable with it, lift your arms up and do the forward fold from here. Or if that is a little uncomfortable for you, you can bring your knees up And then bring your hands to your toes and just keep sliding your feet down until a spot that's comfortable for you. We're gonna do forward fold, hands to toes. And then come back up. And I'm trying to incorporate 5 deep breaths during the pose. So we're just now go to the sides of our feet. So you can either do it, directly, or again, bending your knees, grabbing hold of the sides of your feet and sliding down to whatever level is comfortable for you. Again, just kind of support your lower back in that. So inhale up and then reach for the sides of my feet and hold on to the sides of my feet. And then come back up. The stage pose. We're going to bring our right knee up, wrap our left arm around our right knee, bringing our right fingertips to the back of our hips, twisting our torso to the right. And the full expression, if you'd like, is to bring your elbow on the outside of the right knee and kind of torque it so that you're twisting and looking over your right shoulder. Navel tucked to the spine might help. Feet are flexed. And then come back. Do that on the other side, bending your left knee up to the sky, wrapping your right arm around it, sending your left hand onto the mat behind your hips, twisting your torso to the left, tucking your navel to the spine. And then if you're able and willing, you can bring your right elbow to the left upper edge of your knee and look over your left shoulder. That's where that word persistence comes in. And then come back. And then we're going to do a version of the plank, which is an upward plank. So we place our hands underneath our shoulders, fingers splayed out, fingers are pointing toward your hips. And then your feet are together and you're going to point your toes and lift your hips up to the sky. Do not drop your head back, please. Keep that chin tucked, one of the bones. And then you can lower down. And then we're gonna roll down on our backs. And I'm gonna use the express method. And I'm gonna bring my knees, I don't think this is part of the sequence, but I'm bringing my knees to my chest and just giving my lower back a nice massage by rocking back and forth. This is my samastikshiki for this. And then we'll bring our feet to the mat. We set up for bridge pose. And this is where, the charts differ between the primary and the advanced version. Actually, I think even in the primary, people, instead of bridge pose, they do the back stand or back bend, basically, with lifting up on their hands and lifting up so that their back is, they're up on their arms. I forget the name of the pose. But anyway, one that I guess I could strive for, but I really like bridge pose. So bridge pose with our feet hip width apart, feet are tucked toward our hips. I mean, you can try it if you like. It's putting your hands down here, coming up, and creating that deep arch with your back. But if you'd like to just work with bridge pose, that works for me as well. So hands along the side, palms down. Now we're going to lift, kind of tuck our navel to our hip and lift up, reaching our hips toward the sky. We'll do this 3 times. So each time you do it, maybe work on just getting a little bit more arch in your back. And then slowly rolling back down to the mat, 1 vertebrae at a time. And we'll try that again. So tucking our navel to the spine, lifting our hips up to the sky, pushing our feet down into the mat. Maybe rolling our shoulders a little bit further under. Knees are parallel. And then rolling back down. And then one last time. Tuck our navel to our spine. Push down to our feet, come up, lifting our hips high up, maybe rolling over to our shoulders, and maybe interlacing our fingers underneath our hips. And on the count of 5, I'm going to lower back down. There we go. And then the last sitting pose, if you will, we're going to lift, push down our feet, lift our hips up, and slide our hands underneath our hips, just so that they support. Both hands can be flat on the mat, elbows flat on the mat. So they're right under our hip bones. Then we're going to lift our feet up to the sky, the legs up the wall. And then we're going to cross our shins as if we were seated on the mat. Release our hands from below and roll up to the seated position. And this is where they get into a kind of meditation position. So you're in a nice, and you can use your towel or blanket, elevate your hips. You're going to use the Gyan Mudra, which is the index fingers coming to the thumbs. Palms are up and just dropping your wrists off the edges of your knees. We're going to take 10 deep breaths, and then I'm going to end it with a mantra of Om again. So take your 10 deep breaths, using that Ujjayi breath. Om. And I invite you to Shavasana. Now, we'll take an extended Shavasana. And I just want to share with you, I didn't want to share with you at the beginning, but on this spectrum of styles of yoga and under the Hatha school, we may have restorative on one end being the easiest and less challenging. Guess which one's on the other end of the spectrum? It's the Ashtanga. So congratulations to y'all. And I invite you to roll back and take a well-deserved Shavasana. Just let your body relax. Heels to the corners. Let your feet flop open. We do a body scan, see how your body's feeling. And relaxing, sending breaths into each part as you scan. Really relaxing your shoulders, taking deep breaths. Maybe exhaling through your mouth, and each time focusing on your shoulders, just melting into the mat. For this morning's poem, I have the Autumn Equinox Blessing. Since we're gonna see that autumn equinox this next week. And the author is unknown. The light and the dark are the same in length. They have equal time and equal strength. But soon the darkness will prevail, and the light and warmth will begin to pale. But do not be afraid. Do not dismay, for this is the rhythm of nature's way. Rejoice in the abundance that this year brings. Breathe deep in the coolness and change in the air. Have gratitude and blessing keep toll, and may this shift of nature enlighten your soul.